Well, hey everybody, we're back, and it's been a big night of news. I'm thinking of whether or not I should fire up the Twitter and see what. Well, why not? Because after all, that's where this whole bit of action came from, wasn't it? It happened right after, almost literally after I got off here. Casey Pratt issued a tweet that managed to piss off some people, and it was sent to me, and I reached out to a contact, a friend with the Oakland A's, and I'm not going to say who this person is, but here's the deal. The deal is that that Casey managed to say, here it is. All right, talk about what he's hearing here. Okay, and you need to be careful when you put this sort of thing out, because it has to do with the livelihoods of people, and you can't just say, well, gee, I'm going to put this out just because I heard it, if it's not absolutely 100% confirmed. And in this instance, that's the case. This is not something that's absolutely 100% confirmed. There is the tweet. I'm going to enlarge it and then recite it. And once it's of a sufficient size for you to see, and I believe it is now. Okay, Casey put this out just over 2 hours ago. So here's what I'm hearing. A's met with city today. A's meet with Sacramento tomorrow. A's have internal meeting Thursday. Some employees have been told SAC is happening. Layoffs likely incoming. Stay tuned. So I reached out to my friend who's a very high-placed contact who's with the A's, and he said, no, absolutely not. Nothing has been decided at all. At all. At all. So Casey didn't get this directly from anybody in the athletics that's in a decision-making position. Okay? At all. So there's no reason to say SAC is happening, because, for one thing, in the case of the athletics and the city of Oakland, the decision still has to go to the Joint Powers Authority. And the mayor is really acting out of in non-compliance, because there has been no formal agreement that said, hey, you know what? We let you, as mayor of Oakland, decide that we're going to go and give you the decision to say what we're going to do. All right? That's not in stone. There was an idea that was the case some time ago, but it's not in stone. And ideally what happens is that the Coliseum JPA makes the decision, and that decision is ratified by the city and the county separately. But there has been a habit over the past few years of allowing the strong mayor in Oakland to have more say than really that person legislatively has a right to have. And this is one of those examples. There is nothing in writing that says that the mayor's office gets to have the final say over the Coliseum. The Coliseum is still jointly oversought by both the city and the county because the JPA was never disbanded. And even though the county has finished its obligations regarding the bond issue, it doesn't mean that it is absolved of its obligations over the Coliseum. All right. See, a lot of people make that mistake of thinking that. But the county is still very much involved in this, is very much in this. All right. So Al says ABC and SF bureaucrats have been doing their best to get rid of the A's. Yeah, they have been. Now, I'm okay. This comes from a person who advocated the A's leave because of the mishandling of economic development in Oakland. We've forgotten how to do economic development. So we might as well just let them go and start all over again and learn from our mistakes, which we have refused to do over the history of these team losses from the Raiders and the Warriors and the Athletics. All right. So, well, really the Athletics, I should say the Warriors, the Raiders, and then the Athletics, because as Joe Lacob said, we're the first shoe to drop back in 2012, and he was right. But the bottom line is that there is no zero, no. I mean, no. No. There is no truth to the idea that people are going to be laid off. And Casey really has to be mindful of what he's doing in that regard, because you can scare a lot of people who rely on the Athletics for their livelihood, and they're really already trying to figure out how to count the days and what to do, and they don't know what to do. So when you put out that, oh, by the way, and Raj Matai too, when you say, oh, this is happening sooner than anyone expected, if you cannot ironclad state that unequivocally, don't state it. I mean, I thought that was news 101. But in this rush to get views and clicks and everything else, that gets lost. And unfortunately, the people who are doing the wrong stuff are the people who have the biggest megaphones. I'm not on television. I'm here. Although the good news is that their funnel isn't much larger than mine, unlike the past. Okay. So I can do some damage in terms of a corrective. Hence, we have this on YouTube. We have this on Facebook simultaneously. We have this on Twitter, all running simultaneously. All right. It is absolutely wrong for Casey to do what he has done. Now, he would say, I do me and you do you. Part of me doing me is, as the elder statesman here, to really bring some sanity to all this, because all of the players involved in this, save for one, and that's Henry Gardner, actually two, Henry Gardner and Nate Miley, that I can think of, are all got into this after the turn of the century. Rebecca, for example, didn't get involved in an elected office until 2007. I believe the first person to interview her on YouTube, when she was running for Alameda County Transit Board. That was at the 111 Broadway in a restaurant where I met up with her, and was supposed to meet up with another friend and interviewed her. That's still on YouTube to this day. That's her first interview. Okay. But again, that was 7 years after the turn of this 21st century. And you look around all the people who are involved. Now, Henry's been around since 1991. Nate has been around, I believe, since 1988. Nate Miley. All right. And when you go from there, it's really hard to look at anybody else. You say Noel Gaio, who's been on the council for 2 terms, but his reach back doesn't take us, in terms of council involvement, it doesn't take us to before the turn of the century. And he's on the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority. And so, or rather was, I'm sorry, he's not anymore. He was at one point. Now we have John Beam, once Skyline coach, now Laney College athletic director. Kevin Jenkins is new. And of course, I mentioned Rebecca and Nate. And Kevin Jenkins represents District 6 Oakland City Council. And John Beam represents, Oakland, the Oakland Unified, Laney College and Oakland Unified School District by extension and everything else. And then, so you don't have people, you don't have a wealth of people who understand how Oakland ran before the turn of the century and before we changed government formations. Not only that, when I start to think of people who were around when the JPA was born, I was there. All right. And I was there also to monitor the Oakland Football Marketing Association, in addition to the JPA, on behalf of Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris, where I became his economic advisor in 95, late 95, the same year that the Raiders were returning to Oakland. And I started with him full-time. I was a consultant. Then I started him full-time January 1st of 1996. And in January of 96, I believe it was 26th, we had a meeting with Ezra Rapport, myself, Louis Cohen, who represented Ignacio De La Fuente, and I forgot Valerie's last name, who worked for Larry Reed, who is a District 7 council member, and his daughter, Treva, is now the current. And I distinctly remember the late Ezra Rapport, rest in peace, he passed away last year, saying to us, know these documents backward and forward, because talking about the Raiders master lease agreement, because no one else cares. And I took that to heart. And I take that to heart with every aspect of business regarding the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. Know it cold, because nobody else cares. And know the protocols, because a lot of people want to flout it. And that's precisely what we're allowing Mayor Thao to do. So if we don't like her decision, and there are people on the county side who don't, there's an opportunity to fix it. And the A's know that, okay? The A's know that. So, but they're being understandably quiet. This is not a done deal. And the statement the A's put out did not say, oh, by the way, this is a done deal. It didn't say that at all. It said precisely what it said. Hey, paraphrasing, we're far apart on a deal. That's not really much of a paraphrase, is it? We're far apart on a deal. That's it. It doesn't say they weren't going to meet again. It doesn't say it couldn't be rectified. It just simply stuck to one truism. The A's are here, and the mayor's office is over here. A's, mayor's office. A's, mayor's office. But as I'm reminded by those who are with the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority on an executive level, they have to see us. All right? Okay? Vegas Mark says, Bay Area Media. Yeah, Tropicana. I'm going to talk about that later. And I intended to talk about that earlier regarding the Tropicana, but I wanted to deal with it. So anyway, let's go back and enlarge what Casey put out here. And then also add that Raj Matai also put this information out, but he put it out just 31 minutes ago. So Casey was a full, 2.5, now 2.5 hours ahead. And then he says, seeing as how a lot of this decision hinges on ABC Athletics renegotiating a contract, I look forward to some transparency on their end of the negotiations. Well, I can tell one thing. The A's have been transparent with me. But Casey has dug a hole for himself by siding too much with people who have been very, very, very nasty on a very, very personal level with A's brass. Okay. And that's a mistake. That is a mistake. There is nothing that these folks have done to Casey where he has to side with people who are so nasty to them. It's just not right. I've been on both sides of this thing. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, it's really easy to get caught up in this and think, let me enlarge this back to, it's really easy to get caught up in this and decide you're going to tie yourself to a group. In fact, the American Psychological Association actually has a study around tying yourself to a group in the production of fake news. I'm not making this up. Okay. I'm not making this up. And basically the idea is there are people out there who put out fake news so that they can be recognized by the group. It's like, hey, I've got this head on the snake. It's called this fake news. I know that you want it out there. You're going to put it out as a truism. And therefore that's how the person who delivers the prize, if you will, this fake news, becomes more endeared by the group. And that's Casey. All right. That's Casey. That's the way he's chosen, and ABC-7 by extension, because he's employed by them. That's the way they've chosen to play that game. And you have to wonder what advertiser behind there is looking at this and thinking, oh, or what investor is saying, hey, look, this is what we want. Right. And why? Okay. Would I get paid by a pittance of ad revenue? I'm seeking investors and sponsors. Hey, in particular for our NFL draft coverage, even those who may have cryptocurrency they want to translate into dollars and invest in what we do, outstanding. Okay. So I'm not saying that I don't understand why he does it. I do. They do it because their very survival depends on gaining traffic to watch what they do so that their advertisers are inclined to pay the freight and the rate that they charge so they can keep their company going. That's the name of the game. And now I'm not saying Casey doesn't believe what he believes. He does to a degree. He does sort of. He walks in reality a fine line. He knows doggone well. I'm telling you, Casey knows doggone well what he's doing. He is really playing the flute here. All right. He is pipering this thing to a fare thee well. Purely just is. Okay. And to what end? Well, we'll have to see. But it's a heck of a tightrope he's walking. And under the circumstances, it's not. I've been where he's at with the Raiders situation, where everything that you say hangs on it hangs on the ears of the earlobes of fans, because they're dying for that piece of information that says this thing is not happening. It's going to tank. And look, I've been there and I've been fooled. And I've said this before in my program, and I'll say it again. I learned, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I was determined not to get fooled again, because the city of Oakland, after the whole Raiders debacle, Libby didn't do a debrief. She went right into running for re-election, didn't feel like pointing attention to it, focused on her Oakland promise, and in other words, focused on what she perceived as her strengths, and the Raiders issue wasn't one of them by any chance. She lost them. Okay? And then there are the Warriors. Now, she can claim that the Warriors were done on Gene Kwan's watch, and there's a lot of truth to that. But there's also the truth that Libby got a gigantic Warriors NBA Finals championship ring out of the deal, which she said she gave to charity, and I believe. But the bottom line is she got it, as opposed to not getting it at all. The Warriors gave it to her because, as Rick Welts told me, if she had been mayor rather than Jean, this is what he said. He said the Warriors would have stayed in Oakland. Okay, that's what he told me. So Libby did a fantastic job of establishing relationships with, for a time, the Raiders, until she realized they were sandbagging her, and then the A's and the Warriors. The A's went by the wayside because, well, she was termed out. Didn't get a chance to finish her project. And also she pegged the wrong people to finish that. And then here comes Sheng Thao and a group of council members that believe they are progressive, although in reality they're not progressive. They are reactionary, and they are by turns anti-business. If you compare how Oakland treats its sports organizations with, well, pretty much any other elected official in the entire country, Oakland is an outlier. Even compared to San Francisco, Oakland acts like they want to have your first, second, and third born if you're a sports owner. There is no respect, no desire to thank you for anything. That's how the current set of Oakland elected officials as a whole, not singularly, but as a whole, behave. And it comes at a time when underemployment is at its highest level ever in American history. You know, where people say, oh, by the way, it's going to take, or rather, you're always living paycheck to paycheck, and the majority of the country is living paycheck to paycheck. That's scary stuff. All right. And so in the middle of this, we have Casey, who I would hope is making a good living from ABC-7, going out and literally scaring the heck out of people who are dependent on working those ACE jobs and also love working them. All right. Love it. Okay. Let me get your comments here. Says, yeah, I got that one. He says, I feel bad for all the people giving schools over stadiums money. And then Tom says, I feel like schools over stadiums is taking advantage of desperate fans. Well, they are. And, well, they are. Because of this idea that they're going to succeed at what they're doing, and they're not. And all they're doing is basically bringing all that's bad with respect to San Francisco Bay Area politics to Las Vegas in the face of Chris Daly. That's it. And all the other people like Michael Cobruno, who's a port commissioner, trying to put money in to scuttle their deal. They've all figured it out over there in terms of people who really are active in Las Vegas. And it's not some of the people in the media who just say, well, there's this opposition because it's their job to get you to watch them, to look for the drama. And they've decided that's a drama point. Some of them, not all of them. Not all of them. Because you don't have the media working in unison to seemingly destroy John Fisher out there. That's not happening. Because you have too many people in business and elected officials who also are in business. They also have their own businesses, but they're part-time, who look at the involvement of business in a 180-degree different way than what goes down in Oakland and Alameda County and the San Francisco Bay Area on the Oakland side. All right. And so, and schools over stadiums has proven that it doesn't understand how the bond issue is really structured with respect to the law. But now that they don't care about that, all they care about is making you believe that they have this possibility of winning so they can gin up news and keep their public protest going. It is a creatively slick way of advancing an argument. That's what it is. And, you know, on that, I give them their props because it is effective. But The downfall, the sword of Damocles that hangs over their heads, is in the court outcome. And so, just like before, they're setting themselves up for yet another embarrassment. And this will be strike two. And in the public's mind, a lot of them already think that they're out. They're going to be out. Okay? Just out. Completely. Because anybody that's truly knows stadium and sports financing and economics knows that you can work a deal with the sports owners for a percentage and say, hey, look, we'll have something where we put a percentage of your money with your permission and your logo and everything in the schools, and help us buy books and other types of sports equipment, bats and everything else, equipment for girls programs, which really go wanting even more so than those for the boys. All right. They could do all of that. That's really constructive. But Alexander Marks doesn't have kids, and Chris Daly does have kids, but he's not even thinking that way. I believe he has kids. So point is that they're not acting in the best interests of the actual culture out there in Nevada. They prove that, as Chris Daly has done in the Bay Area, like, for example, his Free Tibet event that I went to, it's here on Zenny 62, because I did the walk for 8 blocks with the rest of them. All right. Very successful. He was with then San Francisco Supervisor Ross Mercarimi. Haven't seen him quite some time. Love that guy. All right. Very successful. I agree completely 100% with what they were doing, but I do not agree with what they're doing in this instance. It's fool's gold. It's fool's gold. And hey, there's some fools out there. There's some fools out there. Now, let's go back to looking at what was put out here with respect to the responses to this Twitter account. And best way to do that is here, like that. And then I'll go back to enlarging it again, just for your understanding. That. Let's see if I can do that one more time. And there. Okay. Yeah. So I did it one more time. This is also on Facebook, by the way. So there's the Facebook version is actually typing out the words. All right. Take a look at this. I just want to show you this. This is neat. Yeah, this is the because I usually don't do it this way, but I figured, I'd give it a shot. Anyway, this is what I'm talking about. This is the Facebook version. Okay. You see the words down there? See, that's me. See, that's me showing you that. Right. Pretty cool, huh? All right. Not bad. All right. So yeah. So at any rate, not bad. At any rate, as I was saying here, this is, I was in the process of enlarging, and I'll zoom in 3 times. That's 1, 2, and here comes 3. All right. Now he has some reactions here. Early report says A's could still get a good chunk of deal with renegotiation, thinking they get 30 to 40 million or more. I think with all this said and done, they come close. This is not happening. Okay. You said get 30. I think what this person is the other was. I know for a fact that the Athletics are not going to be inclined to pay $10 million a year. All right. That is not happening. So if anybody out there thinks, oh, they can just try 10 million a year, forget it. That's not happening. Okay. Forget it. Not happening. Not at all. Okay. Then go back here a bit. And he says, NBC Athletics is likely hurting in their A's ratings, but they're not only potentially sabotaging Oakland, but also themselves for not allowing Vegas to implode, forcing Fisher to sell. I mean, this is crazy. This is the kind of craziness I'm talking about. All right. Las Vegas is not going to implode. I mean, it's just not happening. And these folks keep dreaming this. It's like they are, I Dream of Jeannie. You're not going to get Barbara Eden in the bottle, let alone out of the bottle. And this deal is not falling apart. Okay? Forget it. There are too many people that want it to happen outside of Oakland. And that is what is consistently misunderstood about the rest of the country. I've had to deal with it with respect to trying to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland, and the fact that Oakland, and among the people who work in Oakland, they only see what is, I call it, inside City Hall, right? And that's it. And the other people, Oakland residents in general, are very successful people in different walks of life. They travel a heck of a lot. They're around the country and around the world, literally making things happen. There is a reason the Bay Area is the home of the creation of both the atomic bomb and the hydrogen bomb revolution, along with Chicago, thanks to Edward Teller and other people. If you ever watch Oppenheimer and you hear a reference to Lawrence, Ernest Lawrence, that's the same Lawrence around which the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory was named, or for which I should say, the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory was named. So make no mistake about it. The point that I'm making is we don't have the normal set of fans. We have people who are all over the place. And so they're not this is a sad indictment, but they're not inclined to really focus on what you're doing unless you make them focus. Winning does help, but also a development of a culture that keeps them in place. Of course, the city didn't help at all. And the city of Oakland in the 21st century is not the city of Oakland in the 20th century, which respected economic development, respected business, not to the damage of workers, but appropriately realized that, hey, these companies represent people who have the capital to get things done that can help those who have less in Oakland. That's historically the way it's been. All right. But when you have people who say, by the way, we shouldn't, how do they put it? If you can spend the money on this, you can spend on that. Like, let's take the A's matter. We can take that $100 million and spend it on something else. What they don't understand is that money is a bond issue, and the underwriter is taking a bet that the people who come into the facility, onto the grounds, are going to spend enough to generate the debt service to retire that bond along the schedule that's set. Therefore, there's no need to have the general fund as a backstop. And even if it happens that is the case, there are waterfall revenues that will be drawn from before the general fund is even touched. And then if that's the case, consider that the general fund as a whole is many times bigger than 120 million, and that's not going to be all in one hit anyway. It would be amortized over a long period of years. But again, the magnitude of money is so small that to think that this bond issue default is crazy. And that's the problem. The schools over stadium people and the opponents don't know or care how to do bond math or what I call relative math. In other words, you say, for example, this is going to take this big chunk, or this should be used for the schools. It's 3%. You can bring 3% in to the schools in a myriad number of ways. It's 3% for 1 year. That's it. Okay. 3% of the total. What am I talking about? The Nevada school education system had a $12 billion budget, billion with a B dollar budget last year. Did you realize that? But the way these folks are talking, you would think that the percentage was much greater. It's not. It's 3% on a good day. The tax credits the athletics could choose to use or not. They could choose to say, you know what? And they may do this. This thing is going so well. We're selling so many luxury suites. We can literally give this to the bond issue, pay it off early, and use the rest for education. Why not? Okay. That's the environment the Athletics are going into. It's an environment that was not realized because the city, as it is wont to do, never responded in a timely fashion in terms of implementing the enhanced infrastructure financing district that they told the A's they were going to establish, that came from my idea expressed to Dave Cobble on April 4th, 2017 during our 4 o'clock phone call. So I even sent him the tax increment financing calculations. Dave says, you can't use public money. I said, yes, you can. Take a look at SB 628 Beal, the father of all enhanced infrastructure financing district legislation. You can. So then you have, racist Neil DeMiles, or however you pronounce his last name, coming and devoting a full page to me, criticizing me for saying I came up with the idea, even though I did, which and reading his comments and the comments of his readers, the collective was wacko. There's no other way to describe it, as opposed to what any normal person would do, which is call and say, hey, Zinni, how'd you come up with this? How do you see this working out, and everything else? Questions of which I would have been delighted to answer. But oh no, that they want to come off and treat anybody that looks like me with any level of respect. To heck with them. All right? I said it back then, and I'll say it again. I'll say it as many times as I please. They're not good people. I don't care what shows they get on or what A's people or fans have them and talk with them. That will not ever change my opinion of Field of Creams. Yeah, Field of Creams. Forget it. Okay. So rest in peace, Tropicana. Where is James Bond stayed? Yeah, Sean Connery. No, and again, I'll have another live stream on that. It is sad that it's going, but look, the reality is, in the many years I've attended CES Las Vegas, I've never stayed at the Tropicana. Been through there, but it didn't have good reviews. The hotel room prices were higher than they should have been because of the history. And for me, with respect to CES, it was slightly off the beaten path. Like, I stayed at the Excalibur because it had a better walkway to the monorail than the Tropicana did. So I stayed there. Although the Excalibur itself had some, let me put it this way, rooms that had a lot left to be desired. Yeah. All right. And so let's go back to what we were seeing here about this. All right. There. So Sacramento, what does Major League Baseball Association play in this? Also, isn't the Sacramento ballpark in Yolo County? So that's a whole different local government. So who would play for improvements to make the Major League Baseball stadium ready? A's, River Cats, taxpayers. That's to be worked out, but it's the magnitude, the improvements needed to make that stadium ready are not at a level where it's making it a golden palace. So you're talking about 12 million in modifications or thereabouts, but ideally not much more than that. And the two things you want to make absolutely, there's three things you want to make absolutely certain. You've got locker room, field, and lighting. Okay. The other stuff, like for example, broadcast booths can be built temporarily and in size just so, but you don't need to do a wholesale transformation. That's not necessary. And Rick Judy says, just curious, why would you expect any transparency? Rick's got a good point here. Good question. Why would you expect any transparency during a private negotiation? Well, duh. Any rumblings of Mayor Sheng Thao has spoken with Sac's mayor? Why would she do that? I'm interested. And so I didn't get the replies there. Okay. But I'm interested in why someone thinks you would want to do that. And so it says, wait a minute. That's what he was hearing. Now, if you go through the thread, he says, good stuff from Casey here. Agree wholeheartedly. He agrees with it. That's kind of who this guy is. He says, as for progress, here's where we have the advancement of a problem. This news is not true. All right. The Oakland A's are still quite years apart. That's proved. Okay, that's fine. And then he's, all signs point to a deal being struck, an announcement either end of week or early next. And see what this guy writes acts like the Coliseum. This is what gets me. All right. Thank you, Sochai. This guy writes this stuff like the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority doesn't even exist. Okay. And so this is where this fake news starts. All right. You have to go to the JPA. The mayor is acting out of compliance, technically. The whole issue about the 97 million is not a popular one within the city and the county taken as a collective. It's not. It's like, again, I wrote and I'll state it. It's like something that Sheng and company came up with over glasses of wine and two toots of weed. And I said it just like that. Okay. And I said it just like that for a reason I'm not going into. All right. But they don't act like they take this stuff really as seriously as they need to. It's more like they're sitting around, like, oh, let's see how we can screw with him today. Let's see what we can do to, make their lives uncomfortable for what they did to us. What? But that's how they think. And it's sad. And it's the continuation of a strategy that Sheng Thao came in with as mayor, which is always establishing an us versus them. And it's so wrong to do. It's not about collaboration or resolution. No. It's about maintaining animosity at all times. It's about tit for tat at all times. You hit me, so I'm going to hit you back. That's not the way deals are gotten done at all. And yet that's the way this mayor of Oakland rolls. And she marks the first time in Oakland's history, post-war. I don't know about pre-war, but I know about post-war. First time in Oakland's post-war history we've ever had a mayor that so took things personally that they launched their entire political strategy around perceived slights, class warfare, and who won the headline of the day on a daily basis. And that's wrong. Okay? We cannot advance as a city. We cannot advance as a city. Indeed, we're falling. Now we have a $175 million deficit. And we're not, in the old days, we used tax increment financing to borrow money from our redevelopment agency to get out of that. It's just $175 million. We have been in worse shape. Okay? We've been in worse shape, and we figured out a way around it. We were looking at $125 million not too long ago. Figured out a way out of that. And if you're really serious about solving the problem, you will enact enhanced infrastructure financing districts, because if you don't, that property tax money that's being collected, only roughly 17% of it, 20% of it stays, 20% of it stays in the city of Oakland. So then you have the county of Alameda, you've got the school district, which takes a substantial proportion, BART, AC Transit, and the EB Mud Flood Control District rates. Okay? So that's $1 getting divided. But when you designated area for tax increment financing, guess what happens? That dollar goes to your public financing authority, which we used to call redevelopment agency, which I would think we probably still could if we wanted to. Okay. So we need to capture that, and then we need to be about the task of mitigating sea level rise. I don't care what any of these left, right people say, this is a problem. And why would anybody want to talk against it anyway? That's stupid. You know, this is basically stupid. Sir Chai, thank you. Sir Chai has some comments that I need to recognize. He goes, trust me, Z. Ho, 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 ho. Oh, ho, ho, ho. He says, trust me, Z. Last dive bar will turn on Oakland 68s. Yee. Sad to say that. Then Tom says, I've said it before as Gravity Fallout Pines, but after 25 years from Fremont to San Jose to Laney to Coliseum City to Howard Terminal, I'll gladly take a new ballpark in Vegas because he's tired. And you've seen this stuff. All right. You say from Fremont, I go back to 1997 when I'm saying to Nate Miley at the council meeting, hey, we're going to need to have a plan to build a new stadium for the Athletics. And he said, we already spent $200 million to bring back the Raiders. Now we have to do this for the Athletics. And I said, yes, because Camden Yards open and it has made multi-purpose stadiums like ours obsolete for all practical purposes. And we need to address that. And I said further that this is all public. This is a matter of public record. Okay. If KTOP still has the cameras, the film, I said that representing Mayor Harris, that we didn't bring the Raiders back with an eye toward building a state-of-the-art stadium. We just made changes they requested to get them back, period. That was it, okay? The original proposal was for a stadium that would have cost $853 million. The Oakland City Council took one look at that and said, no, which has been our problem. We have seen big price tags for stadiums, and we always choke on them, folks. We always figure out a way not to do them. We are the experts at thinking micro small, at looking at something like that and thinking that we can't do it. That's somebody else can do that, like San Francisco. Like I remember Jerry Brown telling people that, you know, the Super Bowl should be a San Francisco thing, not something we go after. I mean, what is that? Okay. He even jokingly told a group of Asian business people, hey, half jokingly, what are you doing here? The hotels are in San Francisco, as opposed to, welcome to our city. We're going to get the Super Bowl and we want you here, which helps me because I happen to be on the clock and on the dime at the time. All right. Okay. So then, hey, Al, how you doing? And then Sir Chai says, I think the Royals and Chiefs will leave Prop 1 failed. Oh, it did fail. Wow. Well, you know, I have to buttonhole Clark Hunt, who owns the Chiefs, because I told him he should use tax increment financing. And, you know, a number of you might be saying, how come you keep mentioning tax increment financing? But as Dave Malmuth, who developed the home of the Oscars, said on my show, now a month plus ago, a week before the Oscars, tax increment financing is the best public financing tool there is. Not used as much as it should. All right. And he should know. Okay. I tried to get him to be the developer for Uptown way back in 1996. I cold called the man. And had it not been for his successful completion of what was then called Hollywood and Highland, the home of the Oscars, he'd have been in Oakland. I believe, and that's what I'm talking about. I did that from the position of being the aide to the mayor of Oakland. I wasn't the economic development director. I wanted to be. I wasn't, you know, an economic development analyst. I was the aide to the mayor. You use your position to the greatest of its ability. If you represent an elected official like a mayor of any town, I want you to hear this, those of you out there who are thinking of a career in politics or policy advising, do not diminish the power of the position you're assigned to. Test its limits. You think you want to call someone representing Saudi Arabia and the Saudi government for an economic development investors public financing program? Do it. Just let your mayor know where you're doing it. And sometimes I'll say this: if it's a phone call, sometimes don't, because you might have an elected official that says no, and every elected official, Elihu was beautiful at this, wanted the option of deniability if he didn't like something. Sometimes Elihu used it at the wrong time. Like that time I came this close to bringing Sega GameWorks into downtown Oakland strictly over beers I had with a guy named Steve Ruzak, who represented Sega GameWorks at the time. This is at the Rail Exchange back February of 1996, which is really was a poppin' year for me. Okay? But Elihu said no, and later admitted it was one of the dumbest things he had ever done. I think what happened was that Elihu, when he offered me the job, didn't know who he was getting. And so I was basically scaring the crap out of him on a regular basis. Taking care of doing things that I knew would move the needle for my town. That was my job. Okay? If you don't think that, you're wasting your time and you're wasting the taxpayer's dollar. All right? Don't do that. All right. So I agree, Tom. To be honest, someone's pocketing dollars out of school. Yeah, of course. Zeke called it. Brazil is already pivoting toward the Giants, just like Susan did. I don't think Pratt will follow. I don't focus too much. I've got nothing. Let me say this. I like Casey, okay? All right? This is not personal. I like Casey. He's a good dude. He has a job. I know what he's been assigned to do. I do not know Brody Brazil. Susan Slusher, I'm only acquainted with through mutual friends. That's it. All right? Except my only comment regarding Susan has to do with when she was taking on focus on the NFL, she would never mention a black candidate for head coach. She always had her list. There was always white guys. I said to her, hey, why are you doing that? Yet, she'd be the first to say, hey, women should be involved in this. White women. Women should be involved in this. White women. Women should be involved in this. You see what I'm getting at? Whereas by contrast, I call for the advancement of women. I call for the advancement of those who are homosexual, even though I am not. I call for the advancement of people who are being left out because they don't fit the straight white male model. It's wrong to do that. I have a history of doing that. It's wrong. Intellectually, it's wrong because the best answer could come from any one of those kinds of folks. It doesn't matter. But if you call yourself a good investor, you know that. If I say, hey, look, here's 5 options, but then all of a sudden you say, oh, great, for investment areas, you say, oh, great. But then all of a sudden I tell you can't go through these 2. And it just so happens that this one's the best. That's what we're doing. That's what we do. You know that's wrong. Or if you don't know, it's something wrong up here. But I'm telling you, it's wrong. Okay? He says it's a little funny yet pretty that Mayor Thao wants exactly 97 million. Apparently, the amount of the difference between, that's something they came up with. That was weed. I mean, I'm serious, because what didn't make the headline, what didn't seem to make the attention of everybody, was that they want to use it to help cover up the deficit. This got nothing to do with the A's. I looked at that and I said, are you kidding me? Whew. Nate, Rebecca, Libby, Shang, our rogues gallery, Sir Chai says, preventing Oakland sports from ever being successful. I think here's the problem. Everybody, each one of them are working on their own interests. And that's the basic problem, okay? Their own interests. But I love them all. I have nothing but love for the Sheng Thao that I knew. I do not like the way this current version of Sheng Thao is behaving. It is destructive to the city and to her own future interests. Okay? Rebecca, I will always love as a friend. This period, why she's doing what she's doing, even if she told me, I still would not agree with it. Nate is always going to be my friend. Period. End of story. Okay? Libby is my god sister. That's the way it is. We have our arguments. That's what few folks do. I love her parents. I love her family. I'm not a person who believes in blowing with the wind, unlike a number of my colleagues who say, well, you know, she's her god sister. Yeah, I'll say, yeah. Like I'm supposed to run away from that when she does something I don't like. I don't bowl like that. I'm more likely to tell that her or anybody else, hey, you know what? You're not doing right. And you've seen that, all right? So Trash says, unfortunately, feminism has gone so way left. It cost Oakland businesses and sports, also ruined Marvel and Star Wars. I disagree with that. I don't think it's feminism. I think it's the storylines are lousy. Okay? If you're going to create a strong woman, make the strong woman look strong. If you're going to create a storyline that's truly Marvel, hey, make her have problems like everybody else has. Undergarment doesn't wear it properly, maybe ran out of deodorant. You know, I'm saying make it interesting. The problem is that, and here's where I do agree with you, I think maybe they were so caught up in being what they felt was liberal, which I disagree with, and everybody is woke. Okay, you can be a Republican and be woke. Being woke is saying, hey, look, you don't want people to be incarcerated because they are black. Or, you know, you don't want, everybody agrees that's the wrong thing to do. That's not a woke thing. If anybody else out there thinks it's woke, then they're screwed up. Because racism is a mental illness. Do not forget that. Okay? Do not forget that. All right? Whoa, 2020! Thank you. Tom says it. I appreciate you being the one sane voice in all of this. You know, that makes my week. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just being me. And you know, that's what I'm doing. I believe in that. Okay. Thank you. Wow. And then he says, meant to say petty, not pretty. Seems like Thao made it personal against the A's, not just keeping it business. And that's the problem. That's the way she rolls. That is the problem. Okay. Hoper says, I want to start a scam called Safety Over Stadiums to get Oaklanders to give me money to get the A's to move to Vegas. I'm just kidding. I'm playing a parody on schools over stadiums. Well, that's the thing. Does Alex have? He's an attorney, right? Does he have any clients right now? I mean, hey, look, I don't begrudge anybody making their money, but this is kind of like, you know, dude, right? Okay, right? Gotcha. Let's go back to Twitter here. All right. So we got that one. Yeah, there's a storm, by the way, here. I'm gonna have to think about closing up here a bit. Let's see here. We've got Prager and how the hot dog guy who says, my feeling is if Major League Baseball is serious about granting 1 year exclusive negotiating window, which I don't know if they are, you're going to have to give a bid on that fee. And he says, I think it's reasonable to rework that extension fee based on years. But anything short of granting a serious change for expansion or keeping the team if Las Vegas flops should not fly in either Oakland or Sacramento. I see the thing that nobody takes that fee seriously that has any good sense. I mean, the mayor stated it, but where it came from was bogus. It just, all right. And so I don't think Sacramento's getting played either. All right. This is not, and I don't like that idea, okay, at all. Hold on a second, folks. Yeah, folks, we have bad storms and there's tornadoes going around that are. I don't think it's supposed to hit us specifically, is it? Hey Siri, what's the weather forecast?
The National Weather Service has issued a tornado watch until 3 a.m. Thunderstorms are expected today. Daytime temperatures will hover around 70 degrees, with overnight lows around 49.
Yikes. So Fayetteville, we got a tornado watch. I'm upstairs, which means, okay, folks, I got to be safe. All right. So I will get to, let's see here, Keith James, please. Yep. Sacramento A's have a nice ring to it. Okay, folks, we are Fayette County and Fayetteville are in a tornado watch, and I'm upstairs, so we got a basement. Geek. Pray. All right. I'll make vlog updates periodically, but I get out of here. I'll see you all. That ends this stream. Okay, see ya.